Hi, this is Vinayak Mathur. Am I audible? Please type down in the comment if I am audible or not, because as per here I cannot check if I am audible. Alright, so today I'll be showing you how to do 2D motion tracking in Adobe After Effects, and as a bonus I'll be showing you, as because the title of this live stream shows 2D motion, so I'll be also showing you how to do color correction, or what is called as color grading. So I have got a lot of footages with me, out of which I'll choose one which is the worst and try to do color correction on that, and after that we'll be 5069. Yeah, so I've got this clip. I'll put this down in the desktop. I'll fire up After Effects. After Effects might take up to 2 to 5 minutes depending on the speed of your machine. I have Adobe After Effects CC 2017 release, so some of the features or options might be different, but majority of them might be or will be same. So any questions which you might have, you can drop down in the comments or the live chat. I'll be monitoring that. Yes, I'll be teaching first color correction because the video is pathetic. It is dark. So first I'll do color correction, then I'll export the footage, and then from the exported footage I'll be doing the tracking, because doing tracking on color correction on bad videos can be a lot of time taking. So it's better you first color correct and then you plan to do the tracking. So I've got my After Effects open and I'll create a new first. Okay, so this is the UI. This might be different as I have a multiple of plugins which you may or may not have. So don't get panicked because of that. Okay, so this is the start screen which you might get, and because of this the CC version of After Effects has got so slow. So I'll choose new project. In my project panel I'll double click and import the footage which I have placed on the desktop. This is of This footage is from Calcutta, where I was supposed to go and present my uh, or basically our college film. So this is of that. So before I move on, this is the UI. The major parts of this UI which we will be touching is the project window, the effects control, the composition, footage, and the timeline. The rest of it is just secondary. You may or you may not be touching that. Tracking of no, what is this? Okay. No, images cannot be tracked, as tracking is basically on a moving object. So if you have moving object, you cannot have a still image. So technically that is not possible. So tracking might only be in animation or basically all kinds of videos where there is some sort of movement. Basically tracking is something where the computer is, you basically attach your selector to a certain color pixel, and wherever that color pixel goes, your selector goes, and then you store all the keyframes at each frame of that video, and then you align those keyframe to your target layer or whatever you want to track, and that is how tracking works. So with that logic, you cannot do tracking on a still image. So my footage is ready. So what I'll do is, now I'll just drag this down to the composition button, this film looking colored button on the project panel, and leave it over there. So what will this do is, this will create a composition with the same setting as what your video was. I'll just rescale this according to my preference, and if I scrub through, After Effects, if you are on After Effects CC, which is more after 2015 release, that will have a bufferless playback, so you don't have to do RAM previews or something, which earlier was the biggest headache of any animation or anything you're doing in After Effects. Now, due to the Mercury software playback, you're comparatively faster. So when I hit the spacebar, you see the timeline moves forward without any kind of buffering whatsoever. You can get some errors like Cinema 4D render connection failure, which is fine, you don't have to worry about that until and unless you're doing animation. Right? So this is, if I scrub forward and back, this is the complete footage, and as you can see, this is very dark. And welcome, Dashika. And so first we have to do is, I can actually close the color theme, we don't need that, so that we get a larger work area. And so what I can do is go to select my layer, go to effects, color correction, and then you might find something known as Lumetri color. This is the new color engine which Adobe has released in After Effects and Premiere both. Premiere, I'll prefer more if you have an option, do color correction in Premiere, as in color correction you'll have to see the exact frame the moment it has been done, which might be a laggy kind of stuff in After Effects, but you can, other than that, you can do everything which you can do in Premiere in After Effects as well. So I'll click on Lumetri color, and that will apply to this layer, and the effects control panel will automatically come up. So if I zoom out a little bit, or I can come up here, magnification point, and set it to fit up to 100%. Under my effects control, the screen is blur. The screen is blur. Is the screen still blur? Rashika, is the screen still blur? Rashika, I'll prefer you refresh, because on my device and on the settings page it is showing full quality, so I cannot choose an option to do that. So please refresh, that might help. And if the issue still persists, then I might have to restart the whole system. So okay, so you can try and tell me that so I can restart. In the meantime, I'll carry on. So, and I guess refreshing would take 5 to 10 seconds, so you might not lose that much of it. Or okay, I'll wait for that. You tell me when you have refreshed and the problem is resolved or not. Alright, I've got 5 viewers. So I wasn't even expecting more than 2. Can all those 5 people please comment who are they? Because I cannot. I am just curious that who all are viewing this. 4. Alright. Alright, yeah, that could be a issue. You can just, on the gear icon near the full scale button on the video player, you can click that, and under the quality you can select 720 pixel HD. That might be because your internet connection is slower or might have fluctuations. So is that fine? Shall we continue? Alright. So I've just placed Lumetri effect from effects panel, color correction, and Lumetri color onto a layer, and under basic correction, you can just scroll down all these options to get various options you want to select. With the latest geometry color scheme, what you can do is you can just come over here, which is called as WB selector, the white balance. Click on this, and whichever point you think is supposed to be the whitest, click on that, representing or giving the computer the information that this point is supposed to be white, and whatever the differential of what you are seeing to the color white, the computer will then manipulate itself. So that is the technical part. You don't have to worry about that. What you have to worry is, you just come over here, white balance selector, hit on this color picker, and I know this square was white. So what I'll do is I'll click over here, and you should see some sort of change. Might or might not be that drastic. So how do you define that it worked or not? You can come over here. There's this FX button which you can click on and off to see the changes. There are very slight changes. If you notice somewhere here, there is some sort of coloring change. So anyway, so that is how you select the white balance. Now, exposure is the amount of brightness your screen or the video has. So this is pretty dark, so what I'll do is I'll bump up the exposure, but please keep that in mind that bumping up the exposure can increase the amount of noise or grains which you might face in the video. Like over here you can see the various sort of noise coming up. If I bump this up more, see, these are the noise. So till certain point you can control these noise, and I'll show you how, but it's preferred to do such kind of things in pre-production or basically using the camera itself. Yeah, tell me. Yes, Ashika, tell me. You there? Shall I continue? Alright, so why did I pick the white color from the V portion? Because when I was there I knew that this point has white, so I had to define the computer that this portion is white. So that is why I selected the white balance selector onto this square. This can vary as per your footage. Suppose if you had that this board was white when you shot the clip and this is looking weird color. No, the rod is having the shine. It is not having white. It is basically a gradient. If I zoom in, there are various amount of color pixels, and the computer might not be able to fix such small partitions. So it's better to choose which is the biggest point, and if not, If that is not possible, then obviously that is the last option which you are left with. But it is always better to select the wider area which you have. Alright? Am I clear? Alright. So now I have bumped up the exposure, and let's play the video to see if that corrected the video, and that looks more or less fine to me as far as the exposure or the brightness is concerned. There are some grains which I'll fix in the later part, but as per that, this is fine. So now what I'll come is, I'll bump up the contrast for some points. Contrast will basically give more blacks. It will bump up the blacks. So over here, if you look at these panels, contrast and blacks will be more or less similar, and exposure and whites will be more or less similar. And the same thing goes with the highlights and the shadows. If I bump up the highlights, notice places over here which are already bright, they will be bumped up to a way larger amount. See, so it is looking like the colors are now burning as compared to the previous amount. Saw that? So now let's try bumping up the highlights to 150 and look at this brightened area, and now I'll bring the highlights back to 0. So you'll have to play with these settings. There is no predefined phenomena or procedure or values. They all depend upon the footage which you get, and that is completely hit and trial. Nobody can actually give you the correct values of exposure, contrast, white balance, etc. It is all based on your footage and what looks good to you. Alright, the correct color correction which I might be doing here may not look fine to you, but that's okay. The procedure will remain the same. Alright, and everybody who will do this will get a separate result. Okay, so now I'll leave the highlights like this. For me, the highlights are perfectly fine. Now I want the shadows to be more brightened slightly. I guess values like 8 would be fine. Alright, so I'll just be back in a minute. Alright, so yeah, I'm back. So now let's try pulling up the whites, or I can even go negative, and blacks are fine, or I can just reduce the blacks to a certain amount, right? So this looks fine to me as far as the basic correction is concerned. So now I can hit the effects button over here in the effects control on Lumetri and check till now what we have done or not. So when I click on this, this is the original video, and when I turn on the effect, this is how it will look like. Okay, so there are more options like creative. There are various looks predefined in Lumetri which you can just select and experiment with that. There are tons of them, but I don't prefer using that. I prefer using the basic correction and doing all the adjustments manually. But if you are more confused with that, you can definitely use creative and choose a predefined look from here. Right, so now let's go to curves, and now you'll get, if any of you was using Photoshop or any of the tools like that, or Lightroom where you were doing color correction, you might have used curves, and this is the same algorithm which is used in After Effects, where there is RGB value curve, and you can physically select the white represents RGB, red represents the red channel, green, the blue for the blue channel, and you can physically tweak as to what values you require. As of now, I'll not touch that. For me, the video is done fine. I'm just going through to show you what all options you have. Okay, and then if this is somewhat a cinematic look, I'll prefer putting a vignette, and I can increase the amount from here, and you can start to see the white area in the form of a negative mask for this ellipse which is forming. But I won't prefer that for this specific video. So as per me, this video is completely color corrected. Now suppose right now there is only one video, but imagine if there were multiple layers of videos, then it was better if you would use something which was known as adjustment layers. How would you go till that point? Right click on the composition or basically the timeline, right click, new adjustment layer, and the role of the adjustment layer comes when you have multiple layers below that adjustment layer and you want to put a certain effect or look to all of those videos. So if I had put this Lumetri effect which I currently had put on this video, if I had placed it on the adjustment layer, then anything below that adjustment layer would have got affected with that Lumetri color panel. Now I'll show you how. Let's create a solid, make it comp size, and make it I'll say this color, and place it below. So right now there's nothing on the adjustment layer, there's no effect on the adjustment layer. Alright, so closing it or not won't affect the color of the solid. But now imagine if I had placed this Lumetri color on the adjustment layer and not on the video, and now I switch off the video, the color of the solid will not remain as it was earlier. Right, see, now if I close the adjustment layer, you can see the color correction also applies to this solid which was placed below that adjustment layer. So adjustment layers can be used if you have multiple items below that adjustment layers on which you want to place exactly same effect with exactly same amount of values. Alright, so this is what is basically known as the color correction, and that is all for this. You can just keep on tweaking these values until unless you're happy with this. So for now I'll delete the adjustment layer and the solid as we don't need it. Alright, so now we'll try to remove these grains. So what I'll do is I'll select the video layer, go to effect, noise and grain, remove grain. Alright, now we'll choose the final output as our viewing mode, and then come down to the second portion, which is the noise reduction settings, and we can bump up this value. And notice this place where you can see a lot of noise. I can zoom up till here. Right, there's a lot of noise. The moment I increase the amount of noise reduction, this will get more smoothened. It will buffer up for some time, and then this will start to smoothen out. You won't understand so close because you are zoomed in so far, but if you zoom out, you'll get that blurred effect. That means that is the pixels are being smooth. No, we don't have to do color correction for every frame. You can choose any frame which you want and do color correction on for that specific frame, and that will be applied throughout the video. So if I switch off the remove grain from now, that look will remain there for any frame throughout the video. So color correction is independent of frames. Alright. So was I clear? Alright. So now I'll again turn on the remove grain, and now you can see that it has created this blurred effect to reduce the noise. So we'll just have to tweak this amount till we find the perfect point where the noise is not so dominant and is also not giving that blurred effect on our image. Mostly this value remains near 2 to 3, which looks the best, but you can choose for the video you're dealing with. For me this looks fine, or I can just go below that also a little. No, now there is noise, so I'll just bump this up to about 1.8, or I guess 1.9. Alright, so this looks fine, 1.98. So the whole video, again the remove noise has been smoothened out. Alright, now we are done with the color correction portion. So now what I'll do is I'll export this out. That is, I'll render this color corrected video and then I'll track this video. So for rendering this output, your mouse should be in the timeline. You press Ctrl plus M. or Command M on Mac, you'll be taken to this render queue. Render settings remain on best settings. Output module, you select lossless. You click on lossless, you get format. Default as AVI, you can choose that as per the option you have. In CS6, you have the option of H.264, but in CC, you don't have an option for H.264 as a format. So if you're using CS6, you can choose H.264 in this. I will choose QuickTime, and I'll go in format options, and over here as a codec I'll choose H.264 and select OK. That is all you require over here. This is RGB millions of color. Rest of the settings, let it be at the default. You're just worried of the format and the codec. So if the format is H.264, you don't even have to go to the codec. But if you don't have H.264 listed, go to QuickTime as format, and then under format options, choose video codec as H.264 and click OK. And in this output module settings, click OK. Now you see the extension turns to .mov over here. You can rename this by clicking or changing the place where the output is rendered. I'll choose desktop, and then let's say this as color corrected. Save. So now I'll hit the render button, and that should render the output. So rendering this would take some time. This was showing me around 35 minutes. As this is a live stream, I would preferably not want you to stay for that long. So what I'll do is I'll take another footage which is comparatively clear and stop this for now for the tutorial sake, as the color correction is completed, and I'll show you tracking on a separate video. So I'll stop this render, and again I'll go to project panel. I can select all and delete, so with that we get a blank slate again, and then I can go back to my desktop and choose another video. In these videos, I guess. Yeah, it is easy. And tracking is comparatively easier than this. You just have to keep track of a few things. I can choose this video where the person is writing something. I can import it by dragging and dropping it in After Effects project window. The machine might be slow because I'm broadcasting and using a heavy software at the same time, so you have to bear with that. Also, the main thing while you're using After Effects is that at every frequent interval, please try to save it, because After Effects being so heavy software, it can crash any moment. As you're seeing, the After Effects is not responding at my machine currently. Alright, so this is taking a lot of time. So what I'll do is I'll close this window of After Effects, which is called force quitting, because this is not responding in process. That's it. I'll restart Adobe After Effects. Hello. जी आप हैं? जी जी ठीक है. Alright, so I have restarted After Effects. Now I'll import that video again. I'll go to my file explorer. I'll drag and drop that into my project panel. Alright, so I'm let After Effects reload and new project. That's it. Don't say. I should have first click on the startup page and then imported. Otherwise, this is what happens. The only problem with After Effects is that it hangs a lot. It gets crashed every now and then. And also with the broadcasting system, that will create a mess. Alright, I'll restart After Effects. Hope this time it works. Right, so I've got the After Effects running. Now what I'll do is I'll drag the video. Hopefully this time it should work. And import and let this preview and bring me a thumbnail. Mm, is this loaded? I'm not sure, because otherwise I should have got a thumbnail for this. Uh, and this constant circle loading bar coming on my arrow is trying to prove me that this is not yet. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll double click so that it opens up into a footage window where it is still not loaded. Okay, so I had pressed caps lock, that is why. In After Effects, if you see any sort of error which says refresh is disabled, most probably your caps lock is on. That is why it is showing you that error. So now I have got this over here, and now what I'll do is I'll select a portion of this video and wait, let this preview and be green for the whole video so that this does not buffer. And uh, okay, so I'll skip that. I'll just move forward and let it do buffering because otherwise the video will be so long. And I'll choose some point where I can. No, you cannot skip this buffering part. It depend on the only thing which can save your life is if you have a bigger or a faster machine. That is the only way you can skip this. So what I'll do is there's nothing moving which is significant. I'll choose from this point and I'll press this button right here, and then I'll move ahead till the point the hand fingers move and say up till here. And then if I bring this now into the composition, only this selected portion will come. And we in this one I'll possibly either track the pen nib moving or the paper moving up down. So I'll rather from this point I'll start the video. What I'll do is now I'll pull this work area up till here and then say right click and come to work area, and now this is the portion where I'll preferably be doing this tracking. And I'm still not sure what I should track in this footage. Either I'll track ignore this error, either I'll track this white portion moving up and down. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start with this. If this works, well and good, otherwise I'll start tracking this pen nib. Before that, what I'll do is I'll create a new null. Sorry, I clicked on light. Right click, new null object. Null object does not render while, so that is why we use this. And then we'll go to window, tracker, and now if you come on to the video, you'll see four options. It says track camera, warp stabilizer, track motion, and stabilize motion. In this particular video, we'll have to do track motion. I'll click on track motion, and now you zoom in, you'll get this tracker point. So if I click on this portion and I'll try to move, you'll see that this magnifies each pixel and hence showing the color values. So you'll have to place it somewhere where it is contrasting and you think can have a specific color code. So for me, that edge of the paper might work. So now what I'll do is I'll press the analyze forward button in my tracker window on the bottom right, analyze forward. So for this portion of the video, it looks fine as it is moving according to the page as far as possible. Yeah, so it is a pretty good track. So the basic the basic point which you have to notice is that the point where you are putting this tracker has to be contrasting so that there are no multiple color values moving according to that tracker point. So So as per now this looks fine. So what I'll do is now in the tracker window, now we'll have to tell this tracker that all the information, the keyframes, if I basically I'll press U on this video so you can see there are keyframes formed. That is at each frame it is tracking the position of that. Alright. So now what we want is we want to put all these keyframes onto this null object so that we can parent whatever text or whatever we want to track onto this. So what we'll do is we'll come to edit target. As we don't have any more layers, so that is why it has already chosen null one. But if we had multiple objects, then we should have come here and chosen the one where we want to place the text. I'll press OK, and now if I press the null one and hit U, it is not showing me anything because we forgot to apply the effect. So now what we had done, first we had tracked our motion by pressing the analyze forward, then we chose the edit target, and then we have to hit apply. Now it will ask x and y dimensions or x only, y only. For this we require x and y both, so we'll say OK. And now you can see the null object moves according to the paper. Now you can attach anything like image, text, whatsoever to this null object, and that text, image, whatever you have placed will move in the same motion as per that paper. So for that I'll place a new text and say try, and I'll make this white and bigger, and I'll place it over here. As per now the text remains static, but if I parent this, if you come over here you'll see the twirly line which represents parent. If I come over here and put this to null and now play, then you see the try is moving, the text basically is moving as per the null object, and that is how you do tracking. So hope this was easy, and I hope that you all understood this. If there are any questions you can put it in the live chat and I'll answer those, or else if you understood that, then I think this would be the wrap. Any questions? Okay, so you want me to attach an image with this null object. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll remove the null from this text, I'll delete the text, I'll import an image, I'll suppose import this image into After Effects, bring this down in the composition and scale this so that this doesn't look too big, and I'll place it again. My machine is again going to hang. Wow. So the machine is again going to crash. Close the program, and I'll have to restart the system again, restart the software again. I'll again start After Effects. Now you can attach as many number of items to one null. There's no limitation. You can attach many n number of text images whatsoever to one null, or you can also attach another null to the same null. You have complete flexibility as per that. So now I'll import that same video again. I'll choose the portion. And bring the into a new composition. Yes, you can connect anything to the null, even another null to the same null. Like you can have two null in the composition and you can connect the null 2 with the previous one. You can connect multiple nulls together to form a kind of chain and do whatever with that. Depends upon your creativity. So I've got this where the paper should move. I'll turn off the sound. And what I'll do is I'll go to window, tracker, track motion. I've got this. So make sure you are choosing the second bracket while dragging. Alright, so these three, the plus, the smaller one and the bigger one should move together. Otherwise the tracker won't work. See, you can have, see, suppose a scene where you have about 1000 layers and 10 nulls. So you're basically connecting 100 layers to one null and then connecting each of the null with another null, and that is how you are creating a chain, because connecting 1000 layers to one null can slow down your rendering process. So that is just the logic behind that. Or else the other option is, if you want to animate each line, suppose there are 10 lines and you want to animate 10 lines in different direction or with a different property, then you'll basically connect them to 10 different nulls, because connecting to the same null will technically give them the same animation. I've selected the point. I'll then go analyze forward, and that does a pretty good job. Then I'll create a new null, and then I'll choose edit target, select the null one, and then I'll go and say apply. Okay, and now I can see the null is moving according to the paper. Alright, now I'll import my image and show you that even images can be connected to that null. I drag this to the project, and now I'll drag it to the composition. It is way too big, so I'll have to scale it down for you to check the movement, and then I'll drag it over here so that on the black you can clearly see it move. And again I'll do the same thing. I'll parent this image to the null. You just have to pull this twirly line onto the null, and that's it. Now if you play, the image will move. For tutorial purpose this is so short, but depending upon your video or the amount of tracking you did, this will follow along. Is that okay? Any more question? Any more questions related to this? I guess there are no more questions, so I should wrap it up because already it's been 1 hour 15 minutes since this live stream. Is that okay? Now there is no shortcut for moving the tracker. You'll have to do physically with the keyboard mouse. Any more questions? Alright, so I guess there are no more questions, and I'll stop the video over here. And if you skipped or joined late last, so what I'll do is the video will be saved onto YouTube itself and become public within the next 24 hours, so you can just come back and see that. And there will be a lot of lags, there will be a lot of time where nobody is speaking because either there is a network issue or people are commenting, that is why. But yeah, you can get the content within the next 24 hours on my YouTube channel. And if you like this content, do hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more such content, and see you in the next one. So next session will be probably next week, where I'll be showing you how to edit a music video from start to end, and that will include multicam editing using Adobe Premiere Pro. All questions answered? Okay, I'll wait. In the meantime, I'll close After Effects as my computer is heating up. Or, or okay, I'll leave the software open so that if you have any questions in the meantime, you can ask. How to save this? Okay, so basically save as Control S, so you can go to File and then Save Project. So I'm not sure if you're asking me how to save this or how to render this. There are two separate things. Okay, so for rendering, whichever composition you want to render, select that, or basically click on that timeline, press Control M, or you can also go to composition and then select add to render queue. You see Control M. That will bring to this render queue where you don't have to touch this best settings. In the output module, click on lossless. In format, click on QuickTime, or if you have H.264 over here, click on H.264. But in After Effects CC, there is no H.264. You'll have to go to QuickTime, and in format options, choose video codec as H.264 and click OK on both these windows. And now you should get an extension of .mov. Now you can click on this, choose the destination, like I want it on the desktop, and I want to rename this as test render, and you can choose if you want to save it in a subfolder and click save, and then now hit render over here, and that should do or start rendering. And a pro tip, if the video or the rendering has to be is pretty big, then do hit caps lock while rendering so that all your system memory is going in rendering and not in previewing your render. Alright, any more questions? Alright, welcome, welcome Rafika. Alright, so I guess that's it. No more questions. So I'll close this. If you like this video, do hit the like button and do subscribe for more such sessions, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.